The defending champs look to use home ice to pull even with the Leafs, and the Jets try to snap their road streak. We got plenty of Stanley Cup playoff action to talk about right now on Locked On NHL Game Night.
When that final horn sounds, you know it's time for Locked On NHL Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before. Only on Locked On NHL Game Night. Your team every day.
Hey, hockey fans, welcome to Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thanks for making Locked On NHL Game Night your place to get a recap of the night in the NHL. We are available 7 days a week, wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. I'm Eddie Garcia, an LA Kings fan on the West Coast. He's Shukri Wrights, a Boston Bruins fan on the East Coast. Together, we're here to discuss all the goals, saves, big moments, and stories from the night in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Shu, we had some big games coming up, and looking forward to getting into it.
What's going on, my man? Listen, I have been looking forward to the show for hours at a time. I'm not even exaggerating, because you ever feel like you've let something just marinate for a little while, and the moment you put it on the grill, it just gets better? That's kind of like me in my mind right now. So I'm ready to dive into what has been an eventful day in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So let's go.
All right, let's get into it, and we will start with one of the more intriguing matchups of round number 2. That is the defending champion Florida Panthers taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs, a big Game 4 in the Sunshine State. The home team had won every game coming into Game 4. Leafs took the first game 5-4, the second game 4-3, both in Toronto. Panthers came back for a 5-4 overtime win in Game 3. As for Game 4, the home team wins again. The defending champs behind goalie Sergei Bobrovsky shut out the Maple Leafs 2-0, even the series at 2-2. Let's not waste any time and get a report from our man, the host of Locked On Florida Panthers.
Domination. What is up, guys? Armando Velez here from the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, here to quickly break down the Panthers' 2-0 win over the Toronto Maple Leafs in a game dominated by the Panthers. It was 1-0 until the final 8 minutes, where Sam Bennett iced the game, creating space to knock it into an open net after the Leafs turned it over in the neutral zone. But the Panthers took advantage of the Leafs shooting themselves in the foot, starting with 4 penalties in the first period. And even when the Leafs were on the power play, the Panthers were able to get multiple shots on goal shorthanded. And there was even a time where the Leafs were on a power play. They ended with a penalty, and as one of the Panthers' penalties were coming to an end, the Leafs commit another penalty. So the Panthers were able to live in the Leafs zone all night long. Verhaeghe gets another goal on the night, and Sergei Bobrovsky gets shutout number 5 in his postseason career. We're going to break down all of this and more on tomorrow's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, your team every day.
And thanks to Armando Velez for that report. Sergei Bobrovsky with the shutout, kind of front and center. A couple of huge saves in the third period, both on Matthew Nyes. The second one was a shorthanded breakaway, kept the game at 1-0, and then Sam Bennett ices it with the second goal. But this game probably should have been a lot more lopsided. The Panthers really dominated the play in this one. 1 for 6 on the power play. They could have been a lot better, although I do think that making the Leafs kill all those penalties kind of wore Toronto down a little bit. And as Armando said, it kept them in their own end a lot. Joseph Woll, I thought was fantastic in net for Toronto, especially the first 2 periods. And this game could have been 5-0 easy. He did his job. The rest of the Leafs did not.
This was the first game in this series where it really did feel like a goaltending duel. And that's exactly what you saw tonight down in Sunrise, Florida. In the first 3 games, Eddie, 25 goals were scored in the first 3 games combined. Tonight, just 2. And the thing that really was impressive in terms of the Florida Panthers was, in fact, Sergei Bobrovsky. Because to me, Bobrovsky looked like the guy from a year ago that led the Florida Panthers to the Stanley Cup finals and winning the Stanley Cup in the way that he performed tonight. It was just absolutely a clinic, especially when Toronto was basically trying to put the pressure on Bobrovsky, getting pucks on net, and he had every single answer for every single shot, stopping all 22 shots on net. And that in itself, you got to give Bobrovsky credit, But also in terms of the Toronto Maple Leafs, you could actually say that the Leafs put their worst effort of this entire postseason by far. And they didn't win the puck battles. Like, they didn't win, and they didn't create enough like offensive chances. And that was something that I noticed as the game went on, in which that I kept saying to myself, man, like, where are the chances for the Toronto Maple Leafs? Yes, Matthew Knies did have the breakaway opportunity, but grade A chances like that were far and few in between. And that is something that I think that if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, you got to look at this game, if you're Craig Berube, and say, we got to change up something here, because this was by far the worst game that the Leafs have played during this postseason. But if you're the Florida Panthers, you've got to feel really good about two things here. Sergei Bobrovsky in net, number one, and then number two, you're seeing this Florida Panther team finally regain the confidence that they had earlier this postseason, going into this series, in which that they're reminding everybody as to why they were the best defensive team in hockey last season and even this season, and they're pretty much running back into form at the right time, regaining their confidence from game number 3, which carried into tonight.
Sam Bennett getting that game-icing goal. He's a UFA at the end of the year. That guy is physical. He's nasty, and he comes through in the clutch in the postseason. I don't know if the Panthers will be able to re-sign him. They're paying a lot of players a lot of money, but we shall see. But that's something for another day to worry about. Right now, he's a Florida Panther, and he's continuing to get the job done in the postseason. As for the Toronto Maple Leafs, what's going on with them as they head back to Toronto with this series all even? Let's check in with the host, one of the co-hosts of Locked On Maple Leafs.
And just like that, it's no longer a 2-0 series lead for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm David Morsuti from the Locked On Leafs podcast. Losing both games 3 and 4 in Florida now means that the series is tied at 2 apiece, as the series now shifts back to Toronto. Carter Verhaeghe got the opening goal for the Panthers, who were all over the Leafs in the first period. And Toronto got into a lot of penalty trouble. 4 penalties in the first period alone, and that put them back 1-0, and they just could not find a way to get through Florida's defense. Sergei Bobrovsky faced all 21 shots, and he stopped them all. But the Leafs really did not have much going offensively in this game. Some missed opportunities, absolutely. But this is a series that, it's going to be tight checking, 1-goal games. Leafs got to find a way to break through. Mike DeStefano and myself will break it all down on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thanks to David Morsuti for checking in, one of the co-hosts of Locked On Maple Leafs. Toronto just 12 shots on goal through the first 2 periods. I know they were killing a lot of penalties, so that obviously was a factor in that. And even though Florida wasn't as effective with the man advantage as they probably should have been, killing all those penalties, that wears on a team, right? You use a lot of energy expended to try and kill off penalties. I think that certainly didn't help the Leafs. Florida is also a more physical team than Toronto. That takes a toll on it as well. Just 21 shots, though, on goal for the Leafs. That's got to be better. And where is Austin Matthews? I continue to ask the question. I mean, he's obviously one of the superstars for Toronto. He's got no goals in the series. And in the last 2 games in Florida, he's not really shown up. I mean, you notice William Nylander. You even notice John Tavares. But I don't notice Austin Matthews. So I don't know if he's dealing with an injury or if that's an excuse or if he's just not getting it done. But again, so far, first 4 games of this series, and Austin Matthews has not showed up for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I really struggle with this because on one part, I do think that Austin Matthews has played well. He's played well in terms of the defensive side of things. He definitely continues to improve as a two-way forward, as a two-way centerman. No question. But the problem is that Austin Matthews is not being paid for his defense. He's paid to provide offense. And that goes back to one of the major storylines from game number 4 is that the Leafs' inability to generate offense. And what you saw from Austin Matthews is a microcosm of an even bigger problem, is that for some reason, and this is becoming a glaring issue, that Austin Matthews has not had the same success in terms of offensive production that he has during the regular season come playoff time. And it's become even more pronounced during this series. And I think that if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, what are the things that you have to look at? And you have 2 off days coming up, Game 5 is Wednesday night in Toronto. One of the things that you're going to have to look at is how are you going to crack this Florida Panther D that has really made it a point to limit Austin Matthews and take away his opportunities and frustrate him offensively, and as well as what do you do in terms of making sure that at least that Austin Matthews is able to get going offensively, because at some point he has to be able to answer the bell. We've seen John Tavares step up huge. We've seen Matthew Knight step up huge. We've seen Mitch Marner step up in certain moments, but you need your captain to come up huge when they need him the most.
Toronto can say we've won all our games on home ice. 2 of the next 3 are in Toronto, so maybe they can take some comfort in that. But for me, Florida's the more experienced team. They're the more physical team. They've got the better goaltending. I like their chances to win this series, even though 2 of the next 3, if there is 3 games, 2 of them will be in Toronto. Real quick, Shu, I did want to get your thoughts. Max Domi takes a cheap shot at Alexander Barkov as time expires. He gets called for a 5-minute major. Who cares? The game's over. Will the NHL do anything to Max Domi as far as discipline because of that play?
It's a good question, and I personally think that they should. I thought it was absolutely atrocious and ridiculous. And to be brutally honest, I thought that hit by Max Domi on Barkov was cheap. It was weak.
It was.
The game was over. Cheap. It was just cheap. Why? The game was already over. You want to sit and make a statement now when the game was already over, and that you have not been able to produce much of anything during this game. Come on now. It was weak. It was pathetic. And frankly, I think the NHL should actually give him some sort of discipline for that, at least a fine at bare minimum, because for what reason? And that led to the scrum at the end of the game after the horn went off. So to me, it's just cowardly, if you ask me.
Yeah, it was a cheap shot on one of the star players because he knew the game was over. And because Barkov didn't get hurt, the NHL won't suspend him. They probably will fine him, but it was cheap and it was dirty for sure. Up next, Mikko Rantanen remains red hot. The Jets stay ice cold on the road. That's next on Locked On NHL Game Night. Do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment? It's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. All right, Shu, our second game, well, it's actually our first game on Sunday, is Jets versus Stars. Game number 3 as the series shifts to the Lone Star State. Dallas took game 1 in Winnipeg 3-2, natural hat trick from Mikko Rantanen. Game 2 goes to the Leafs 4-0. Connor Hellebuck, a much-needed good performance with a 22-save shutout. But how would the Jets and Hellebuck respond on the road where they have had their issues, to say the least? Well, the answer was okay, at least through 2 periods. We were tied 2 in the third, but in the final period, all Dallas Stars, they outscore Winnipeg 3-0 and skate off with a 5-2 victory. Mikko Rantanen continues to be the best player in the playoffs with a goal and 2 assists. Let's get a report on this one from our host of Locked On Stars.
The Dallas Stars built off a 3-goal third period, take down the Winnipeg Jets in Game 3 by a final score of 5-2 this afternoon. Mikko Rantanen was on a mission once again. Another 3 points for the Moose. Becomes the third player in the last 30 years with 17-plus points over a span of 6 postseason games. And oh yeah, that joins the company of Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. Safe to say, Mikko Rantanen is absolutely on fire this postseason. He probably deserves a Conn Smythe, but we're only 2 rounds in, and it's only 1 victory for the Dallas Stars, who now have a 2-1 series advantage. But it's safe to say he's having an incredible run. But the Stars in general, that third period, the best period of the postseason they've played. Sort of suffocated Winnipeg, gave them a taste of their own medicine a bit, and a great way to respond after being shut out in Game 2.
And thanks to Joey Erickson, the host of Locked On Dallas Stars, for that report. Mikko Rantanen, last 8 games, 9 goals and 9 assists, as he has been exactly what the Dallas Stars could have hoped for and more when they picked him up before the trade deadline. I had said after game 2, where he had no points and 1 shot on goal, he's got to be looking for a shot. His teammates need to be looking to get him the puck more. Obviously, that happened in game number 3.
Oh, did it ever? I mean, it was as if, Eddie, you were holding the magic potion saying, haha, come on, I need you. Come on, wake up now. Wake up. And you know what's funny? We've seen this from Rantanen before. Like, he'll wake up when you need him to wake up. And, I mean, come on. Seriously. For the 5th time in the last 6 games, Rantanen has at least 3 points. I mean, this is like God level. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Mikko Rantanen continues to show exactly why right now. If the Stanley Cup was being awarded tomorrow, or like say tomorrow night, for example, and obviously I'm talking hypothetically before anybody starts coming out my throat, that he's got to be a Conn Smythe Trophy winner. It's not even close. If the Stars were to win a cup tomorrow, they would have clinched the Stanley Cup. He's got to be a playoff MVP. That's how good he's been. But in terms of Game 3 in itself, what amazes me is that like this particular stretch of play by Rantanen continues to show exactly what the Dallas Stars were getting when they acquired him at the trade deadline. Playoff Moose is on the loose. And this is now, by the way, the Rupe hits goal that he scored, it now ran Mikko Rantanen's astounding streak to 13 consecutive Dallas goals that he's either scored or assisted on. And that is absolutely incredible. And unfortunately, the streak was snapped when Thomas Harley scored late in the first period. But Rantanen in the third period, again, we saw this in Game 7, the last home game that the Stars played in. He woke up again and he said, you know what, time for me to take over. And he did exactly just that.
As for the Winnipeg Jets, now 0-8 in their last 8 playoff road games, 0-4 this postseason. And of course, Connor Hellebuck has been in net for all 8 of those losses. Let's get a report from the Jets side of things from our host of Locked On Jets, who's also not too happy with the officiating in this one.
Sure, who was worse during Game 3, Stars versus Jets, the officiating or Winnipeg's third period? Harrison Lee from Locked On Winnipeg Jets here, coming to you after a big 5-2 defeat to the Dallas Stars. Winnipeg dropped a tough road game, and while the scoreline was not exactly flattering, this felt like a game that the Jets were in until a very controversial deflection ruling, whatever you want to call it, basically said that Connor Hellebuck scored an own goal. Now, you can look at the kicking motion, you can debate it all you want. The league apparently doesn't even know its own rule book and has decided it was a good goal. And then after that, the Jets had one of their usual road collapses and just could not get things together. This after some very questionable no calls and now a no supplementary discipline moment for Jason Marchment, who actually stick-tapped an official complaining about a no call himself. It's just been an embarrassing night for the NHL. We'll chat about it on Monday's episode of Locked On Winnipeg Jets, so see you there. Have a great night, and as always, go Jets go.
And thanks to Harrison Lee, the host of Locked On Winnipeg Jets. I don't know if embarrassing night for the league, a little strong, but I understand where he's coming from as a Jets fan. It's very frustrating.
Fastball.
Yeah, let's talk about that play. If you didn't see it, Alex Petrovic of the Dallas Stars moved his skate to deflect the puck towards the net. There was no distinct kicking motion, but it was also ruled that Connor Hellebuck, who was swiping at the puck in the air with his stick, was the one who directed the puck into the net. They reviewed it forever. It was the longest video review I have ever seen. And frankly, I was like, make a decision. I understand they want to get it right. I really do. Yeah. And yes, it's an important moment. It's the go-ahead goal in a 2-2 game. But if you can't figure it out after, 5 minutes, time to make a ruling. Replay and I have a love-hate relationship. I would just say I don't think there was a distinct kicking motion. So I think the goal should have counted regardless of what they did with Connor Hellebuck and his stick. I didn't have a huge problem with it. Did you think that Winnipeg got screwed over in this or not?
No, they didn't. Not even close. Not even close. But before I even get into like the ruling in itself, that review was so long, Eddie. I thought that you were better off playing elevator music. Like, or even better yet, when you call like the doctor's office and you're being told, please hold, and then you hear that music that's on the phone, that's what I warranted. I'm like, can you hurry up, please? Like, yes, get the call right, but 8 minutes. Like, that's exactly how long it took. 8 minutes. I'm sitting there in front of the TV like, okay.
Seemed like 28 minutes to me.
Like,
but go ahead.
Seriously, it felt like you were sitting there in the middle of Los Angeles traffic, like in hopes that you would begin to move somehow, some way. But no, it took you 8 minutes before you began to even reach a mile. How? So, with that being said, it was the most frustrating 8 minutes of the day. But be it as it may, as far as the call itself, they didn't get screwed. I'm talking about the winner pitcher. It was the right call. Like, listen, the truth is, yes, the puck did go off Petrovic's left skate, but there was a whole bevy of like sticks along the way to Hellebuck. So it took away any sort of possibility of the goal being eliminated due to a distinct kicking motion. If there was one, but the truth is, no, Winnipeg didn't get screwed. They made the right call. My only complaint is it shouldn't take 8 minutes. It's got to be a new rule. Whereas, hey, if it's not clear-cut definitive, keep the call on the ice as it was. Leave it alone. But it shouldn't take you that long. But ultimately, they got the call right, and that's what matters.
So here's Connor Hellebuck on the road this postseason. Game 3 in St. Louis, 6 goals allowed. Game 4 in St. Louis, 5 goals allowed. Game 6 in St. Louis, 5 goals allowed. And Game 3 in Dallas, 5 goals allowed, including 3 goals on 8 shots in the third period. It's easy to point your finger at him. His teammates do need to help him out at some point as well. But he wasn't pulled in this one, as he was the previous 3 road games. He stayed I guess he was pulled for the extra attacker late, but not pulled because of performance necessarily. But the road woes continue for Connor Hellebuck and the Winnipeg Jets. So again, Dallas with a 2-1 series lead. Game 4 coming up Tuesday again in Dallas. Will Vegas get some momentum from their miracle win in Game 3 in Edmonton? Will the Great 8 get going for the Capitals? That's next on Locked On NHL Game Night. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in on the game before tip-off and during the live action with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways to play than ever. Play smarter and win big. Which players are showing up in the biggest moments? How could tracking their trends help you build that next big bet? What would it look like to combine a live prop bet mid-game based on how the action unfolds? If you've got a read on who's heating up, why not back it up with the same game parlay? How could a $200 bonus in bets help the excitement if your first $5 bet hits? New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Shu, we got 2 more playoff games coming up on Monday. Let us start with Game 4 in Edmonton as the Oilers are taking on the Golden Knights. Edmonton with a 2-1 lead in the series. The road team has won every game so far. Oilers taking Game 1 4-2 and Game 2 5-4 in overtime. But the Golden Knights shock Edmonton in Game 3 with that 5-4 victory, with the puck going off the stick of Leon Draisaitl with 0.4 of a second left in regulation. Will the Vegas Golden Knights be able to take that kind of miracle win and take it forward? Do they have some momentum now going into game number 4, or do you still like the way the Oilers have played overall in the series?
I like how the Oilers have played up until game number 3. But I do believe in this case, I do think because of how the game 3 ended for Vegas and how they won literally via the buzzer beater, that kind of momentum does carry to the next game. And I'm still shaking my head about it 24 hours later. Like, how did he manage to beat the buzzer is still beyond me, and it still doesn't make sense. But be it as it may, as far as the Vegas Knights are concerned, I do think, in all sincerity, that Vegas, they do have momentum on their side, because I do think Edmonton is still stunned by how Game 3 ended, considering that McDavid had tied up the game and it looked like we were going to go to overtime, but it didn't happen. So I do think that ultimately one of the things that Vegas does have on their side is that William Karlsson is starting to get going, and as well as like the Riley Smith, who had huge game number 3. I think it will carry into game number 4. But I do think that Vegas may have ultimately cracked Edmonton's confidence a bit. And as you mentioned, the road team has won every game in this series so far. And I think Vegas, to an extent, has been better on the road. So I do think that continues in game number 4. And I do think that Vegas somehow finds a way to win in Edmonton in game number 4 to even up the series.
So some important news for the Oilers. Stuart Skinner is going to start in net in game 4. Calvin Pickard, who's 5-0 this postseason, couldn't go in game 3, still listed as day-to-day, but they've already ruled him out for game 4. So Stuart Skinner, 0-3 this postseason, including the loss in game 3, will be looking to get his first win of this postseason, again, going in net. So that, I would say, favors Vegas in some way. But we don't know about Captain Mark Stone for the Golden Knights. Left in the first period of game 3, didn't return, upper body injury. They've listed him as day-to-day, but they also say he's questionable for game 4. Stone, 8 points so far this postseason with 4 goals and 4 assists, and obviously a clutch performer for the Vegas Golden Knights. Their captain, a very important player. If he can't go, you mentioned William Karlsson, Jack Eichel, Tomas Hertl. Those guys are going to need to step up if Mark Stone is not able to go in game number 4. We've also got game 4 between the Hurricanes and the Capitals. Carolina now leading that series 2-1. Carolina took game 1, 2-1 in overtime. The Caps came back for a 3-1 win in the second game. And then Carolina with a 4-0 shutout win on home ice in game number 3. The goaltenders obviously have been big in this series. Frederik Andersen, big game 3, 21 save shutout. Logan Thompson did not have a good game 3 after looking really good in games 1 and 2. So he will look to bounce back. And we talked about Austin Matthews, no goals in the series against Florida. Alexander Ovechkin not only has no goals, no points through the first 3 games of this series, obviously their captain, no shots on the power play for the Great 8 as well. Obviously a guy who had all the headlines during the regular season, but so far in this series has not shown up for the Capitals.
And I think that really speaks more to the defensive structure that the Hurricanes have like instilled, or should I say have installed in this series to try to slow down Alex Ovechkin, which has worked to perfection up until this point. Like he's been an absolute non-factor in this series, in which that you would think that he would like perform or at least produce like 5-on-5 at least for sure on the power play, but that hasn't even been the case. So I think that if you're the Carolina Hurricanes, you got to give a lot of credit to how they have matched up against Ovi's line, and as well as the second line for the Caps as well, and as well as in terms of the way that they play defensively as well. I think that like the way that Jacob Slavin has played in this series, and I think we need to talk more about Jacob Slavin in terms of how much of a force he has been defensively, and the leader of the decor for the Carolina Hurricanes along him, and as well as Brent Burns, and how much of a tremendous job they have done this series of shutting down the Capitals offensively. So ultimately, like, yes, you need Ovechkin to get going, but not just only him. You need your other guys as well, like Tom Wilson to get going, McMichael to get going, and as well as Strome to get going. But I think also that you got to give a lot of credit to how the guys have played defensively in front of Freddie Andersen as well.
All right, so the Stars beat the Jets 5-2. That series now led by Dallas 2-1, and the Panthers shutting out the Maple Leafs 2-0. That series now even at 2 games apiece. You got a taste of some of our local experts. Make sure you check out the Locked On show of your favorite NHL team to get all the latest news and reactions. Our guys Cam Stewart and Tyler Feldman are going to take over Locked On NHL Game Night for the next couple of nights. We'll be back on Thursday. I'm Eddie Garcia. He Shukri writes. Thanks for listening and watching Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day.